Listen to me, because I want you to catch this in your spirit. Your value is not determined by how people treat you. Did you hear what I said? The way they look at you, the way they talk to you, the way they ignore your presence, the way they try to minimize your worth, none of that has the power to define you. Just because they mishandled you does not mean you're broken. It does not mean you're weak. It does not mean you're unworthy. It means they didn't have the vision to see what God put inside of you. Some people are blind to brilliance. Some people are deaf to greatness. Some people are numb to purpose, and when you come into their life shining like the light of destiny, they will try to dim you so they can feel comfortable in their shadow. But I came to tell you, you are not a reflection of their ignorance. You are not the echo of their insecurity. You are the image of God's intention. They don't get to assign your value. They didn't create you. They didn't call you. They didn't anoint you. They didn't pick up the pieces when you were shattered in the dark. So why are you letting their opinion weigh more than God's promise? Some of you have been walking through life carrying wounds from people who didn't have the capacity to love you, the maturity to respect you, or the wisdom to handle you. You've been second, guessing your worth because they rejected you. You've been playing small because they overlooked you. But hear me, their inability to appreciate you is not a reflection of your lack of value, it's a reflection of their lack of vision. You don't put diamonds in the hands of children. You don't give pearls to swine. Why? Because value must be matched with understanding. If they don't know what you carry, they'll mishandle your destiny. If they don't see your worth, they'll trample it under their insecurity. You are not less because they didn't notice. You are not broken because they left. You are not abandoned, you were protected. Some of you keep giving VIP access to people who only paid for general admission. You keep handing out pieces of your peace and parts of your purpose to people who couldn't even pray with you, let alone build with you. You've been trying to convince people to stay, to support, to see you when the truth is, they don't deserve you. Not because you're better than them, but because they were never built to walk with you at your level. You keep trying to get loyalty from people who are not loyal to themselves. You keep asking for validation from people who are still lost in their own identity. You keep trying to prove your worth to people who couldn't even recognize Jesus unless he performed a miracle. But baby, you are the miracle. You don't have to dance for attention. You don't have to bleed for love. You don't have to shrink to be seen. Let me teach you something true, Val. You is not loud, it's consistent. It doesn't need to prove. It doesn't need to plead. It just is. And when people can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means they're not qualified to hold it. Some of you have cried over people who were only in your life to teach you how to never let it happen again. They were a class, not a covenant, and what you're calling a heartbreak was really a graduation. You learned something. You found out you were stronger than you thought. You realized your standards had to change. You understood that not everyone can go with you. That's growth, don't mourn over it. Learn from it. When God puts greatness on you, he will sometimes allow you to be undervalued, so you stop placing your confidence in people and start rooting it in him. He will let them walk away, so you realize he's the only one who stayed. He will allow the rejection to reroute your identity back to your divine origin. Don't chase people. Don't beg them to see you. Don't cry over closed doors that God himself shut to protect your destiny. You are worth more than their silence. You are worth more than their betrayal. You are worth more than their shallow affirmation. And when you know your value not because of your status, not because of your looks, not because of your bank account, but because of the God who formed you in your mother's womb, then you'll stop settling for crumbs when you were born to sit at the table. So I dare you to get up from the places where you've been tolerated and walk into the rooms where you are celebrated. I dare you to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. I dare you to wipe your tears, straighten your back, and walk in the confidence of this one truth. They don't deserve you, but God has a place that does. And until you recognize your value, you'll keep wasting time in places that can't contain your purpose. You are chosen, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you are too anointed to be underestimated by those who never saw what God was doing behind the scenes. They don't deserve you, and that's okay. Walk anyway, grow anyway, become anyway, because where God is taking you, you're finally going to be seen the way heaven always saw you. Some of you have spent years shrinking, years minimizing who you are to make others comfortable, years of dimming your light, so their insecurities don't get exposed, years of playing small just to keep the peace, keep the circle, keep the approval. But I came to tell you today, that season is over. You've outgrown who they remember, and you can't keep bending backwards to fit into spaces God has called you to stand tall in. You see, growth is not just physical. Growth is spiritual. Growth is mental. Growth is emotional. Growth is spiritual elevation, and when you grow, you will start to feel friction in places that once felt like home. That discomfort you're feeling is not an attack. It's not rejection. It's not betrayal. It's evolution. When God starts to elevate your mindset, your appetite changes. What used to entertain you now irritates you. What used to feed you now starves you. What used to satisfy your flesh now grieves your spirit. That's not arrogance, that's transformation, that's growth. That's the evidence that your roots have gone deeper and your branches have started reaching higher. But the problem is, while you're growing, some people around you aren't. And they want you to stay the same, talk the same, think the same, complain the same, gossip the same. They want you to sit in circles that no longer stretch you, commit to conversations that no longer feed you, and chase things that no longer fulfill you. But the Spirit of the Lord is saying, stop shrinking, stop apologizing, stop downplaying who you are becoming. Some people are not intimidated by your past, they are intimidated by your future. They're not bothered by who you used to be, they're threatened by who you're becoming. And if you're not careful, you'll start questioning your growth because they can't handle your elevation. You'll start toning down your brilliance because their comfort zone can't handle your calling. Let me teach you something. You do not need permission to become. You do not need approval to evolve. You do not need agreement to rise. Growth is a gift, and if you have to choose between keeping people and keeping your progress, choose your progress. Because true relationships won't resent your rise, they'll celebrate it. They won't compete with your growth, they'll cover it. Some of you have been spending your energy trying to drag people with you into a season they are not prepared to enter. You're begging people to grow, to see, to understand, to evolve, but they're still addicted to small thinking, stuck in cycles, anchored in the past. Let me tell you, you cannot carry people who refuse to walk. You cannot plant gardens in soil that's committed to staying barren, and you cannot pour vision into minds that only understand survival. You've been trying to fit into friendships that were only meant for your last chapter. You've been editing your calling so they don't feel convicted by your purpose. You've been pretending you're not hungry for more just so they don't feel left behind. But God didn't invest all that wisdom, all that pain, all that experience in you for you to play it safe. Stop explaining your purpose to people who only understand your history. They knew you when you were insecure. They knew you when you were inconsistent. They knew you when you were still figuring things out. But now you're growing, you're healing, you're becoming, and they're uncomfortable because they can't manipulate what you're becoming. They can't control what they don't understand. It is not your job to stay stuck so they feel secure. It is not your assignment to water yourself down to fit into a version of life God already delivered you from. You have to stop shrinking because the world needs the full version of you, the whole version. The healed version, the educated, powerful, focused, driven version. That version is the answer to someone's prayer. There are nations tied to your voice. There are destinies waiting on your decision. There are future generations connected to your courage. So if you shrink now, you sabotage everything God placed inside of you. And don't you dare let fear dress up as humility. Playing small is not holy. Hiding your gifts is not modesty. Silence is not always wisdom, sometimes it's bondage. I know it hurts to outgrow people you love. I know it's painful to walk alone when you used to walk in crowds. But you are not called to stay where you started. You are called to grow, and not everyone can go with you. Some people are scaffolding. They're meant to support you for a season. Then they have to be removed so the full structure can stand on its own. You have to release yourself from the guilt of evolving. You have to stop trying to keep the peace by killing your potential. You were never created to be average. You were never assigned to fit in. You were born to shift atmospheres, break chains, and raise the standard. Stop shrinking to fit their memory of you. That version no longer exists. You've changed, you've prayed, you've sacrificed, you've grown, and now it's time to walk in the fullness of your calling unapologetically, unashamedly, and undeniably. Let them talk, let them misunderstand, let them walk away, but don't you dare stop growing, because the place God is calling you to requires your full stature, not the half you, not the scared you, not the people pleasing you. The bold, healed, mature, growing you, and when you finally step into that place, the doors will open, the right voices will appear, and the grace will match your growth. Because where you're going, you won't need to shrink to fit in. You'll finally stand where you were always meant to rise. Rejection hurts. Let's be honest about it. It stings in a way that words can't always capture. It cuts into your confidence. It shakes your identity. It makes you second, guess your value and question your purpose. But hear me, rejection is not always the enemy. Sometimes rejection is the voice of heaven saying, that's not your door. Sometimes rejection is not a denial, it's a divine redirection. You were praying for it to work. You were hoping they would stay. You thought the opportunity was the answer. You thought the relationship was forever. You were certain the door was the breakthrough. But then it closed, then they left, then it fell apart, and now you're standing in the rubble of disappointment asking, why? Why would God allow it to happen like that? Why would he let you get so close only to pull it away? Let me teach you something. God sees what you can't see. He knows what you don't know. He hears conversations you weren't invited to. He sees motives hidden behind smiles. He knows what that yes would have cost you. And sometimes the most merciful thing God can do is close the door you were begging him to open. Sometimes the greatest act of love is his refusal to give you what you thought you needed. That person who rejected you, that boss who didn't promote you, that friend who walked away, that opportunity that vanished, that wasn't punishment, that was protection. That was God stepping in, intercepting your path, and rerouting your future. Because what you were chasing was too small for your destiny. What you were crying over was never built to hold the weight of your calling. You see, rejection is a tool that God uses to shape your direction. Some of your greatest growth didn't come when they said yes, it came when they said no. Some of your deepest transformation didn't happen when doors opened, it happened when you were locked out, shut down, forgotten, overlooked. And in those moments of isolation, God began to whisper new vision into your spirit. In those seasons of silence, he began to teach you who you really were. The problem is, we often worship what we want more than we trust what God knows. We say, Lord, your will be done. Until his will doesn't look like our plan. We say, God, guide me. Until he guides us away from what we wanted. But faith isn't tested when doors open, it's tested when they close. It's tested when the text doesn't come back. It's tested when your name is missing from the list. It's tested when you're qualified, you're prepared, you're ready, but the answer is still no. And in that moment, you have a choice. Will you collapse under the weight of rejection, or will you rise in the confidence of divine redirection? Rejection is not just a deed, or it's a signpost. It's God saying, that's not your path, that's not your people, that's not your place. It's God saying, I have better. But you can't receive the better while still clinging to the broken. You can't walk into the new while still mourning the old. You can't carry bitterness over closed doors and still expect to have open hands for blessings. Let me tell you, if they could walk away, they were never assigned to stay. If it could collapse, it wasn't built on the rock. If they didn't choose you, it means God is preparing someone or something that will. Because God will not allow what belongs to you to leave your life, and if it left, it was never yours. You were just borrowing it for a lesson. So shift your mindset. Stop calling it rejection and start calling it release. Stop labeling it as failure and start labeling it as favor. Stop thinking that the enemy won and start realizing that God just rescued you. You don't need closure from people when you have clarity from God. You don't need validation from those who couldn't value you in the first place. Some of you are still grieving over what God was trying to move you away from. You're still crying over people who were only in your life to wake you up. They didn't stay because they weren't meant to, and if you had kept them, they would have contaminated your future. Their absence created the space for God's presence to move in stronger. Their rejection created the vacuum where your next blessing will fit. So instead of asking, why did they leave, start asking, God, what are you making room for? Instead of praying for a door to reopen, ask for the courage to walk in a new direction. Your destiny is not tied to those who left. Your future is not dependent on the people who gave up on you. You are still called, still chosen, still anointed, still valuable. In fact, some of your greatest seasons are going to come after the worst rejections. The business you launch, the book you write, the wisdom you carry, the anointing you walk in it will be shaped in the fire of being told no. And that's how you know you're dangerous, because what didn't kill you refined you. So lift your head, dry your tears, take another step. Because while you're crying over what left, God is preparing what's next. And when you finally arrive in that place of promise, you'll look back and thank God for every rejection because it led you straight to your real purpose. One of the greatest mistakes you can make in life is trying to force everyone into your future. We often confuse attachment with assignment. Just because someone was present during a chapter of your life doesn't mean they were purposed to follow you through the entire book. Some people were only meant to be part of your story for a moment, a scene, not the whole script. And the longer you hold on to temporary people, the more you delay permanent progress. It's a hard truth, but it's a holy one. Not everyone is assigned to your destiny. And if you don't learn how to discern who's for your calling verses, who's for your comfort, you'll drag dead weight into places that were meant to be light. Many of us are guilty of trying to carry people into spaces where God only invited us. You keep trying to include everyone in your elevation. You want them to grow with you, change with you, heal with you, but they've become content in places you were called to leave, and now you're tired. Not because you're weak, but because you're carrying people who refuse to walk. Let me teach you something. Loyalty is beautiful, but blind loyalty is dangerous. Some people you're calling friends were only meant to be classmates. They were in your life to teach you something, to show you who you are, or sometimes who you don't want to be. But that season is over. And if you're not careful, you'll keep watering relationships that have already withered. God is a master architect. He designs purpose with precision. He assigns people based on alignment, not emotion. And when God starts building your destiny, He'll remove anyone who doesn't fit the blueprint. Don't fight what God is trying to subtract. Don't mourn over connections that God had to cut. When a person's assignment in your life is complete, their presence becomes a distraction. And here's where it gets painful. Sometimes it's the people closest to you. Family, lifelong friends, people who knew your history but can't handle your healing. People who celebrated your struggle but resent your success. They were comfortable with the broken version of you, but now that you've healed, you've become too much. Too driven, too deep, too disciplined, but don't you dare shrink to make them comfortable. You've got to be bold enough to say, I love you, but I can't stay here with you. Growth requires separation. Destiny demands distance. Sometimes the best way to honor what you had is to accept that it's time to move on. Remember Abraham? God told him, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you." Genesis 12:1. That call wasn't convenient. It wasn't comfortable, but it was necessary, because some journeys are so holy, so specific, that they require separation for activation. If Abraham had stayed connected to the familiar, he would have forfeited the promise. And so will you if you keep dragging people into places where God only called you. There's a reason eagles fly alone. There's a reason the higher you go, the thinner the air becomes, because elevation filters out the unnecessary. And some of you are gasping for air, not because you're unprepared, but because you're carrying people who were never meant to breathe at this altitude. You need people in your life who understand where you're going, not just where you've been. You need people who can push you, not just pacify you. You need people who can correct you, challenge you, cover you, and call out the greatness in you, not just keep you comfortable in complacency. Because when it comes to purpose, compatibility isn't enough, there must be alignment. You don't have time to babysit egos or manage other people's insecurities. Your destiny is too important. The anointing on your life is too valuable. The call on your name is too real. And if you keep dragging people who are assigned to your past into the future God is trying to build, you will sabotage the very thing you've been praying for. Let them go. Let them misunderstand you. Let them say you've changed. You're supposed to change. You're supposed to evolve. You're supposed to outgrow places, people, and patterns that no longer serve the person you are becoming. And don't confuse love with permission. You can love someone deeply and still understand that they are not meant to go where you're going. You can honor the role they played without extending them into a season that no longer includes them. Love them but leave if you must, because obedience to your purpose must come before your attachment to people. There is a destiny with your name on it, but it requires clarity, and part of clarity is knowing who's for your journey and who's just passing through. Everyone clapping isn't committed, everyone close isn't connected, and everyone around you doesn't always align with what's ahead of you. So start praying for discernment, not just opportunity, but wisdom. The wisdom to know what to keep and what to release. The strength to say good, bye without guilt, the courage to walk alone if necessary, because your calling is too critical to carry unassigned people into the promised land. You don't need a crowd, you need a circle. You don't need cheerleaders, you need covenant. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your future is to let go of who's not assigned to it. There comes a time in every person's life where you must stop asking why they didn't choose you and start recognizing that you were never created to be common. You're not everyone's type because you were never designed to blend in. You were never called to be the crowd's favorite. You were called to be chosen, handpicked by God for a purpose too big for popularity, and here's the truth, being chosen often means being set apart. Being misunderstood, being rejected, being misjudged, being overlooked, because people can't categorize what they don't understand. They can't celebrate what doesn't conform. They can't embrace what confronts their comfort. And when you walk in uniqueness, when you carry purpose, when your presence demands truth, some people will resent it. Not because you're wrong, but because your authenticity exposes their avoidance. You are not too much. You're just too real for people still living behind masks. You're not unworthy. You're just anointed in a way they can't explain. You intimidate small minds because you were built for bigger things. And when you're called to greatness, it unsettles those who have settled for less. Stop shrinking to be digestible. Stop apologizing for being different. Your distinction is your divine signature. God didn't create you to be a copy of the culture. He created you to be a reflection of His creativity. You carry something that can't be replicated. You bear a calling that can't be cloned. And the very thing that makes you feel isolated is the very thing God wants to use to elevate you. You see, the oil on your life didn't come cheap. It came through tears, through trials, through trauma, through pressing and crushing. The weight you carry is evidence of what you survived. So don't you dare downplay your value to make someone else feel better about their indecision. Their inability to recognize your worth doesn't reduce your value. You are still chosen. You are still called. You are still set apart, even if they couldn't see it. Jesus himself was rejected by the very people he came to save. The ones who needed him the most were the first to deny him. But his rejection didn't derail his mission, it confirmed it. It proved that what he carried couldn't be received by hearts hardened by tradition and blinded by pride. Likewise, you must understand being different is part of your divine design. The reason they walked away is because your presence convicted their comfort. The reason they couldn't connect is because you spoke truth they weren't ready to face. The reason you feel like an outcast is because you're not supposed to fit in, you're supposed to stand out. So hear me today and hear me well. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not unworthy. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. You are set apart. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And if they couldn't see that, it's not your loss, it's theirs. If they walked away, let them walk. If they misunderstood you, let them misunderstand. If they rejected you, thank God for the protection. Because what they couldn't carry, God is using to crown you. Every no, every door that closed, every betrayal, every delay, it wasn't the end, it was the beginning. It was the process. It was the separation that had to happen for the elevation that's coming. God had to cut you away from who wasn't called to go with you. He had to strip the familiar to unlock your future. You've spent too long trying to convince people to see you. But God says, I see you. You've been trying to fit into rooms you've already outgrown, but God says, I've prepared a table for you. You've been mourning over those who left, while heaven is rejoicing over what's coming next. This is your season to stop chasing validation from people who couldn't handle your calling. This is your time to stop auditioning for rooms that are too small for your gift. This is your moment to rise, to walk in your difference, to embrace your uniqueness, and to step boldly into what God has for you. Because the truth is they didn't deserve you, but God still has need of you. You're not too late. You're right on time. Your future still stands. Your oil still flows. Your voice still matters. And your best, your absolute best, is still ahead of you. Now walk like you're chosen. Speak like you're chosen. Lead like you're chosen. Live like you are the answer this generation has been waiting for. Because you are, and they may not have deserved you, but your destiny still does. Let's go.